Hey guys, David Christian here. We have a lot to talk about. First off, I fuck me. I was planning on doing a breakdown of Canelo and Ferguson, and both of those were 90% done. And then, obviously, everyone knows that Canelo got tested for. He failed his drug test, with him claiming that it was bad meat, and Ferguson fell off a stage. I guess I don't know, but. So that's where that went. But I know a lot of you guys are gonna highly disagree with this one, but I am very much looking forward to Holloway versus Khabib or Habib. I don't want to offend anyone. I've had people correct me both, but I'm very much looking forward to that fight far more than I was looking forward to the Ferguson versus Khabib fight. And the reason is I just like Max Holloway so much as a fighter, and he's so insanely innovative. I think he's a far better fighter than Ferguson is, if I'm being completely honest. Not that Ferguson isn't great himself, but he takes a lot. He takes a lot of punches, and a lot of it's due to his resilience and his chin and his kind of crazy unorthodoxy, you know. So I can't say the same thing, obviously, about Canelo versus Triple G. I was really, really looking forward to the rematch. I thought it was close. The first one, I thought Triple G definitely edged it in, but I definitely thought it was close. So, yeah, let's get started talking about this fight. Kind of reminds me. I'm going to say a bunch of controversial shit, and you could downvote me if you want, and I could be completely wrong. This is just more my opinion based on all the breakdowns I've done, and it's always near impossible to predict fights anyways. But this is just where my head is at. This feels to me like Rousey versus Holm a little bit, in the fact you get this incredible wrestler or grappler rather, who's really good at securing these takedowns, and then destroying people on the ground. Obviously, Ronda used a lot more submissions, and Khabib is all just about like beating you down until you kind of give up, or the ref is very nice and calls it. And it's really up to the ref a lot of the times with a Khabib fight. It's like, well, how much am I willing to make this guy suffer? Because once he gets to a certain point, he's exhausted. He keeps trying to. I think I'd rather get knocked out than just dominated by Khabib, because every time you think you're about to get up, and you see that light at the end of the tunnel, it's like climbing up a like a really steep hill, and then every time you think you're up the hill, Khabib just pushes you back down and you tumble all the way back to the ground again. It's like that, except someone's punching you in the face and the ribs the entire time. It's like you think you've posted up, and he was just waiting for you to expel as much energy as possible, and then he's like, no, I'm not going to let you post up, and he just grabs your wrist and pulls you back down, and there you are again. He lets you change position almost sometimes because he's tired of beating on you in the same position. Like, he wants a little variety. Like, oh, okay, he's been on his back long enough. Let's let him let's let him face me so I could look at him while I punch him in the face. So, and that could very well happen to Max. That could be exactly what happens, especially coming off with his injury and taking the fight on such short notice and going up a weight class. That could very well happen. And here's where I'm going to say the controversial shit, and I warned you about it, so whatever. It reminds me of Rousey versus Holm, because you have this grappler who relies on just kind of bull rushing, on just kind of charging in. If you look at Khabib's takedowns, he gets 40% of his takedowns that he tries, which is not a whole lot, and the reason being is because he likes to do it from the clinch. He likes to take you down from clinching, and he initiates that clinching not really very often by just charging at you. More often he sets it up with striking, or he tries to do a reactive takedown. He tries to bait you he tries to bait you to throw something and you're a little off balance, and then he takes you down. But usually it's him just securing an underhook or two, and then just kind of walking you or charging you towards the cage. And once you're on the cage, he really likes to make you think you're in a superior position, and then he's going to use a judo throw when you're trying to defend against, like, a snatch or a double leg, or whatever the hell. And so a lot of it comes down to just techniques that people aren't used to, just exactly like Rousey. And just like Ronda Rousey, I think that Max has a chance here to use footwork and the way that Khabib strikes to set up his takedowns against him. It's almost the same scenario to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if Khabib just beat on Max the entire time and finished him on the ground. That really would not surprise me. I'm not saying anything differently than that. But I also would not be surprised if we got a repeat of Ronda Rousey versus Holm. And, you know, either way, I think it's going to be a good fight. But let me explain a little bit more, because I know a lot of you are still going like, what the fuck is this guy on? Let me explain just a little bit more why exactly I think that and what some of the comparisons are. So if you watch we'll talk about Khabib's defense first. Khabib's defense is basically just like a stiff arm and an elbow block. When he's coming in, he moves his head around a lot, and we'll talk about that in a second. But as far as just getting strikes thrown at him, he basically just moves backwards, absorbs some of the strikes on his leg. Sometimes he'll check, and then it's just from there it's just the same basic blocks. And Max is so insanely good, and if you've seen my breakdown of him and you could see it now on my Patreon too, after the whole copyright shit. If you've seen my breakdown on Holloway, you'll know that he's one of the very best up there with Mighty Mouse with blending his clinch work, his grappling in general, and his striking. One of the absolute very best people at it in the game. And the way that he manipulates his opponent's guard is absolutely beautiful. And so if Khabib just kind of tries to use those same blocks over and over and over again, he's going to find that all of a sudden Holloway has grabbed onto his wrist and has created an opening, and then he's hit him twice, and then he's left. It's the same thing with leg kicks, in that Holloway is absolutely amazing at coming deep into the guard. I made a comparison before between him and Sugar Ray Leonard, because he likes to use that double step along with the foot feint in order to get his opponent to shell up, and then he'll step in deep. But what he also does is he's a switch hitter, but he does it in a way that I've been waiting to happen for an incredibly long time, in that he uses these tight, short, linear leg kicks that pose very little risk to him to be taken down, and he'll use these oblique kicks or more like he doesn't really turn sideways, so I'd call them more just like low line front kicks or JKD kicks, side kicks, or kind of like that, whatever the hell you want to call them. He uses these kicks to enter. He'll do this while stance switching, and he'll do it without stance switching, but it's very low risk, and a lot of times he'll even check or feint a kick to enter as well. So he's not even putting himself in any risk at all. He's just taking kind of a big step off of like a teep feint. So all these things, along with his excellent takedown defense, and the way that he's just very quickly adjusts and gets off the cage, and it makes me think that Khabib is in for some hard work before he takes him down. I do think if there's not a knockout or whatever, and that's not very likely because Holloway's at least it's not very likely until the 4th or 5th round, because Holloway is far more of a volume striker, just ramps up the volume and finding those moves in between the moves. So like he'll hit you twice when most fighters will have hit you once. He's like the drummer that drums on the half beat. And that's the other problem for Khabib, is that Khabib comes in and he really, really relies on his striking to kind of pressure and overwhelm his opponent. And then he'll do the exact same thing as Roberto Duran did. And this is kind of funny. I'm referencing Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran in the same, and I'll kind of bring it around at the end too when I'm talking about these two guys. It's kind of funny. He does the same thing Roberto Duran does. Is he'll have these wide swings that make you think he's a shitty striker, when in reality he's an excellent striker, because the strikes are actually tailored to set up clinches and takedowns. So he'll throw like a really wide hook, but then he'll circle that around. He'll know his opponent's going to back up and then raise his guard. He'll circle that around in the same motion and then secure an underhook or single leg, whatever the hell. So he's really, really good at that. The problem is that Holloway is so used to using his opponent's attempt at grappling against him, and I went into this in the video too. If someone tries to get a collar tie on Holloway, he'll actually follow them in, realizing that creates an opening to the ribs, and uppercut or hook their ribs, and just use it against them. And then he'll adjust it so that it's gone and then move out of the way. So I think Khabib's striking style is pretty much, because Khabib uses it to set up takedowns, it's pretty much the greatest possibility for Holloway to have, because he could turn that strength into a weakness very, very easily. He'll immediately see that that Khabib has secured whatever he's secured, and then use that against him, and then get out, just get the hell out of there. And of course, very good in-out footwork along with this grappling is why I think that it reminds me of Holm versus Rousey, because all Holm really did was be the first person to manage distance, and then realize how to kind of get Rousey off of her as soon as she got that one kind of takedown she liked to do. So I think I don't know. It reminds me a lot of that, and that would be hilarious and not hilarious. I guess hilarious too, but just spectacular if Max pulled that off. That being said, I think I think that would be far more likely if he was the one punch KO kind of guy, and he's not. I think that because he's a high volume striker, even though he's really good at turning people's grappling against them and taking tight linear angles and avoiding takedowns and everything that'll make him hard for Khabib, if he doesn't if he doesn't get a knockout, which he probably won't, Khabib will take him down eventually, and it's just a matter of time. It's really just a matter of time. I think if he's gonna get up from that, it's gonna be right away, because he's so good at scrambling. He's so good at scrambling, just like getting out of impossible situations to get out of and turning it to an advantage. But even if he scrambles out and then turns it into advantage, gets some kind of lock or something, puts him in a headlock or a guillotine, you don't want to stay there with Khabib on the ground. So it's really if he'll be smart enough to get up instead of just trying to secure a submission, because Khabib's just on another level, and I don't really see that working. If he pulled it off, that'd be amazing, but I don't know. So I'm not saying that Max is a favorite. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be surprised if there was an upset, because Max is such a high IQ fighter and is kind of already has the answer to what Khabib's trying to do. That being said, it is 6 days notice. It is him coming up into a new weight class to fight someone who probably should have been the champ a while ago. And it is Khabib, and it's really just, it's difficult to see that happening. I'm just saying it's not impossible. I wouldn't be surprised with it. So that's kind of where I feel it is. I think it's going to be a great fight regardless. I could definitely see Max being, the fight being stopped in the third, because Khabib is just beating on him too much, especially with this coming in from an injury. But we'll see. I think it's going to be amazing. As for, I guess I might as well just talk a little bit about the Canelo breakdown. I might put it out again eventually when people aren't so pissed at him. Basically, what I was going to say about him is that he likes to, even though Canelo has an amazing head movement, he really likes to go into a high guard to condition his opponent to feeling resistance against the guard and to expect no movement. Once he gets his opponent comfortable with that jab, then he'll time them to open up his guard really wide just as soon as the guy is going to throw another jab, as his opponent's going to throw another jab. So if you imagine him in his high guard, his opponent's getting used to being able to making contact, and this could even happen with pros. His opponent might even be aiming for his guard rather than trying to break through his guard or knock his guard down for another punch. He's just used to that distance at that point. It's a new distance. He thinks of his guard as his head. So when that happens enough time, Canelo will use his crazy-ass head movement in combination with his looping wide punches to get you from really weird angles, and he'll turn from this high guard fighter into just this fighter that's all based on head movement and evasiveness. And obviously the biggest thing with that is his cross. So he'll go in high guard, get tapped on the high guard a couple times, take some hard jabs, and then as soon as he feels his opponent is going to do it again, opens up, gets his head way offline, and then crosses his right over their jab or whatever he wants to do. So that was basically, I was going to go into more depth than that, but that's basically what I had for that. Ferguson, I was just going to go a little bit into his head movement, how he likes to lean back and then come in with an uppercut, a little bit like Prince Ahmed. And then how he likes to combine his grappling with his punching a little bit, using some Wing Chun techniques. And they're not really pure Wing Chun. He just uses the concepts from it, and then he kind of trains it a little bit. So I was going to go into that a little bit. Those were going to be the two. I am still going to break down the fight, especially if it's a good fight. So you guys could can look forward to that. I'm going to put out the fight. I'm going to see if UFC does a copyright thing. It's going to be kind of my test, my return, if you will, to fight breakdowns. I'm going to use nothing but still pictures. I might even black and white it, but you'll get a full breakdown. Everything minus the knockout, most likely. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I hope everyone is looking forward to the fight. I sure as hell am, and I will talk to you guys later. Happy training.